What's up, everybody? Welcome back into Play the Fight Song College Football Show. March has arrived, but in here we just talk football for August. I am joined by, I don't know what we want to call this rotation anymore. The Jordan Justin lineup. Obviously, my name is Jake. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As Cam is, I believe, in Dallas with his wife, doing a little getaway trip. So I can't blame the guy for taking a couple of days off. But here at Play the Fight Song, we try not to take any days off. Jordan, let's start off with you. How are we doing tonight? We ready to talk some college football?
Yeah, you know what? It's a bit of a dreary day, bit of a dreary next 24 hours.
Is it raining in Des Moines?
Yeah, it's been raining the entire day, nonstop.
Because it's snowing
it'll
here.
turn to snow. It'll snow like after midnight when it gets a little colder, but it ain't gonna last the whole time. But yeah, it's been a weird day. Just I kept the windows open, no sun the entire day.
Not even a little bit. Justin, I was promised a full man shoe from you tonight for the episode. You're muted, so I'll give you a second to collect that. But
damn,
explain yourself because I'm a little disappointed here.
Oh, there was no promise. It was just speculation after Russillo broke that out on the Sunday pod. If anyone was going to break one out, I think it would have been JP. We should have gave him a heads up.
I said,
I can't mess. I did goatee for a little bit. That's about the extent I can do on this.
JP,
especially I have it kind of short.
You could easily pass as Ryan Russillo.
I was just gonna pull up a picture here. We're already talking Russillo before we even dive into it. I mean, if you're watching us on YouTube here, I mean, come on now.
No.
It's the same guy.
Come on now. That is the exact same guy. Jordan.
Just two ball knowers.
Jordan, tell us your NBA knowledge. What NBA knowledge do you bring to the podcast?
The NBA knowledge is like, I honestly couldn't tell you who's first place in some of the leagues. Deadass.
Some of the leagues? Like in the conferences? What do you mean?
Yeah, just any of it. Like, couldn't tell you who's good. The expected seedings. Like, I just don't know. Don't care. Don't put it on any. It's not on any of my timelines. It's not on anything. I don't tune into Sports Center really that much anymore because it's the same four topics all the time. Yeah. It's just not interesting to me. So, yeah, my NBA knowledge, like, I understand players for the most part, but like I don't have like a deep, in-depth knowledge of 4 or 5 people.
Man's just dedicated to college football. You got to respect it.
I don't stray very far from what I watch from. Like I watch college football, the NFL. I watch college baseball. I watch college hoops, but most of my team's in hoops. But I'll tune on like a random non-power game every once in a while. I'll watch the power ones.
Have we decided who's winning the national championship in baseball yet? Like it's already March.
No, that ain't close. No, we're 3 weekends in, bud, and it's still up in the air. I can tell you it's going to be south of the Mason-Dixon line wins it. Okay. But other than that, I got nothing else for you. Well, that basically is like half the ACC and the entire SEC. So
yeah, like half of the good teams from my understanding.
It's like pretty much all of them. So that doesn't make it any less great. Like there's still good baseball throughout. It's been a blast. So you slam my NBA knowledge.
I know.
We talked about this. We talked about this earlier today, where it was like my high school basketball knowledge in the state of Iowa is like your knowledge of the high school baseball in the state of Iowa. Like it's like they're so low, it's not even worth like mentioning.
My baseball knowledge in general is probably the equivalent of a first grader at this point. I'm going to be honest. You guys didn't tune in tonight for me to talk baseball, and you didn't tune in tonight for Jordan to talk the NBA.
I hope not.
We're talking college football because we always talk college football around here. So if you're new to the show, appreciate you guys jumping in here tonight. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. The road to 1,000 continues to trek along. Had a little bit of a spike last week. I think we gained 10 new subscribers thanks to one of our topics on the old TikTok or Shorts or whatever you want to call that. But
every little bit helps. It all helps.
I will say, though, March Madness is approaching. We need to rep some school gear. Go check our friends out at No Rivals. Shop norivals.com. Get yourself a sweet hat for March. Use the code PTFS for free shipping. They're dropping new schools by the day, so I'm sure they've got pretty much every team that will be playing in the March Madness tournament. So go check those guys out at shopnorivals.com. Let's get to the point of tonight's show, or at least give you guys the rundown as usual. We'll give you news from the sport, and then we have the way too early top 10 from all three of us. I don't know if we're ready for it, but we kind of let the national championship breathe a little. We went through the month of February, all that good stuff. But I think it's time to at least turn the page. Bill Connolly came out with his SP Plus for like returning production. So I think that's like a good meter for like, all right, I think we can start to like dabble into maybe a little bit of prediction or like what we think is going to happen in early August. So that's what we got on.
We're just trying to get clicks if we're doing it the moment the national championship game goes final. Like I would too, though. Like I get it. Like just throw UAB in there. Just see what happens. You know, it's a lot of engagement.
You weren't ready to crown the 2026 national champion after the 2025 national championship?
Nope. Can't say I
ready.
was. I know some people were. You know,
I'd be lying if I wasn't looking at the futures.
Yeah.
I think that's so different.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop you there. I'm gonna stop you there because let's just get into it. We'll start there because Jordan, you don't know this. This is breaking news to you and our audience. I got a text the other night from Justin, who, if you listen to our shows or Iowa State shows, whatever have you, you can tell him he's a fan of win totals in any sport. Loves it, indulges in it, loves betting 6 months before the season starts. Good for him.
Call it investment.
Justin, do you want to let the audience know which team win total you took over already before it was even March?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I took Illinois over 7.5 wins in late February, as one does. Not even my first bet of the year, actually. Got a couple early lines there. I think there's just a lot of value there in the spring if you're willing to put your money in there, which I know there's always some money in my account because I'm always playing around with it. I'm okay to sit on some money there for a while and take an investment, not to stray too far from the topic, but
no, it's all right.
I bet a lot of NBA futures, like back to that topic back in September when the season was a month around, like it was like a month before the season, they released those, bet some of those. Already had one of those hit, had the Cavs bet hit already in March. Slight flex there. But the Illinois one, I mean, they came, just like you said, they came out with the S&P index, and that was kind of the last thing I needed to see. I think they were number 2 on returning production. Yeah, they were number 2 on overall returning production. And after I saw that, it just kind of hit all of the criteria that I look at whenever I'm looking at futures. I mean, they're keeping the same head coach, keeping the same quarterback, have a lot of returning production, and they have a pretty workable schedule. They don't play Oregon or Penn State, and they've got Ohio State and USC both at home this year. I think that's pretty much a recipe where they could go out and get 8 wins. They did it last year. They won 9 games, upset South Carolina in the bowl game. Just seems like a program that's going in the right direction that I am willing to invest in late winter.
My argument was they played a lot of one-score games last year.
It's true.
I don't, the way Illinois recruits, I don't know if it's not on par with the top of the Big Ten. So I don't know how much they could keep this going, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just speculating. Jordan, is that the Big Ten guy? Like
schedule. I think
that's a good bet.
Anything under 8 is a disappointment for them next year, just based on what, like everything you're kind of going over. I kind of look at them as like a more talented Iowa going into next year, like what Iowa had going into this year, right? Like 7.5 was Iowa's win total going into this year. And you're looking like, even if they have a rough year, there's no reason you don't win 8. Like it took by the skin of your teeth type stuff, but Illinois is more talented. I think has pretty much a similar schedule, maybe a little bit tougher, but plays in that same, like there's no reason this should happen barring crazy injuries, crazy situations. Like it's you're betting, right? So
you can't take that into account when you're betting. And if you just look at it from a consistency standpoint, I mean, if they're bringing back, like I said, the same coach, same quarterback, and a lot of the same players, they're going to be able to play the same style of football that they played last year. And I think that isn't something that was very lucky. I think it could translate to this year.
Yeah, I mean, there's some pieces that they would love to have back that they're not getting back, but I don't want to go too far into that.
No.
That's based on later conversation.
My other one was I got Iowa State still sitting there at plus money for over 7.5 games. If anyone's willing to go out there and take that one, I wouldn't have taken it this early if it wasn't plus money. But
I think I need to see that.
I think
schedule
that's
again.
I think that's gonna move. I think the odds are gonna move. I don't know the win total is gonna move. I doubt that ever goes up to 8 because pretty much every Big 12 team's sitting at 7.5. But if you give me Rocco another year, you got another year of Matt Campbell and that staff. I mean, I think they can go out and get 8 wins.
I think those two programs right now just feel like both of them are coming off great seasons, and one of them is going to have a disappointing season just because of how close.
Somebody will. It's always how it
Eight,
goes.
8 wins is a step back for both of the teams too. Let's put that out there.
All right. I love it. No, that's a good point. I like that. We will. I'm sure we're going to do a win total episode here pretty soon. I would have to imagine, but I
imagine that's a May-June thing.
I don't know.
Before we get into previews, we did like if we want to talk about them, yeah.
It was in the spring last year. I would say it was in the spring last year because I bet Syracuse over during that episode while watching. Reese got me so fired up.
We just give you winners like 6 months in advance. It's like your early
maybe post spring practice, like mid-May, early May. Yeah, and then you get, our actual post preview season episode on the similar thing, like futures of all kinds. So I believe we had some futures dabbled last year, preseason, national champions, conference winners, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. All right, fellas, we're 13 minutes in. You know what that means, how we started off all of our off-season episodes. We got the off-season question of the day, the question of the episode. Again, kind of like last week or whatever that was 2 weeks ago, kind of a two-parter. I got 2 parts to this question, but the first one would be, if every state combined all of its college football programs into one roster, who would have the best team in the country? I feel like this is a pretty easy answer for the most part, but maybe there's like 2 or 3 you could think you have a good argument for. Jordan, I'll start with you. Which state are you taking?
There seems like there's an easy answer in being Texas.
Yep.
Right. I think that's the easy cop-out answer. And so I wrote that down as like, that seems like the easy answer, but it's not the fun one to explore. So I think I'm going to go with a fun one to explore. Let me know your thoughts on this one, right?
Okay.
What about like the state of Michigan? Hang with me here.
I'm with you.
You get Michigan and Michigan State, both of which have a very clean identity. They're both solid, right? But you get supplement from all those other smaller directional schools within the state of Michigan. Fill the holes you need to fill. There's plenty of talent within there. Just, it'd be a little more, we talked about this right after Michigan won a national title.
Yeah.
Right? But you're getting an up-and-coming Michigan State that's obviously more talented than what it was a year or 2 ago. And then you're getting Michigan kind of up and coming as well a little bit more after a down year. And then you're getting all the supplementation just to fill in holes because with multiple schools in the state. It's a tough one, but I think it's worth mentioning and talking about just how they can supplement the roster with the number of schools.
A lot of really good MAC schools in there to supplement your depth. That's for sure.
Hey, all you got to do is fill 1 or 2 cracks.
Yeah, I think you're still lacking some skill position there. Like, you got the quarterback probably. You have 2 pretty solid quarterbacks in Childs and Bryce Underwood. That's not a bad little 1-2 punch, but part of me feels like you're missing some receivers, but I don't hate
State doesn't have bad receivers. You got a decent tight end situation. The defense is going to be good.
Yeah. I don't hate the answer.
I'm just exploring something that's a little more.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If we're looking at something that's a little more off the radar, just combining 2 schools, we want to look at South Carolina.
That was.
Yeah, I had that one down too. Yeah,
got South Carolina and Clemson. Don't really want to.
Coastal. Whoa, Coastal.
And Coastal. You've got 2 potential top 10 teams sitting right there. I think that's probably the only state that can say that off the top of my head.
Yeah,
that could have 2 potential top 10 teams right now going into the year.
Yeah, we're going into the year for sure. Yeah.
Even if you look at like California and Texas, Texas A&M's not.
I was going to say
10. You don't got 2 top 10s out in California. I think they're really the only state that can say that right now.
I think Alabama or Florida are the 2 ones that could be like, we be a couple weeks in the year and you could have 2 of them within the state. Thoughts? Like, if Auburn pans out that way they pan out, if Alabama just hits straight again, name alone's going to push you up fast.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at this, I mean, Florida's got to be obviously a really high draft pick, probably right there with Texas, especially with the high school recruiting, just keeping all the athletes, all the schools that they got there. Got like
there's
4
athletes
high,
everywhere.
You got 4 high major
I'm just
schools.
talking one season, though. I'm talking this season.
I looked at it. I mean, you've got just a mass amount of talent there. If you could bring all those guys together, you got UCF, Miami, Florida State, Florida. You got so many different schools to choose from. And if you just look at the draft, a lot of guys are coming out of the state of Florida. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to the schools in Florida, but I saw last year, 2024, there was 30 or let me make sure that number's right. There was 30 kids from the state of Florida drafted last year. And I mean, if you just say even half of those stay in state and around those teams, I didn't look into it that much. I mean, Florida's got to be right there at the top.
I took Florida. I thought, I mean, like the Texas and Texas A&M combination of those rosters supplemented with TCU and Baylor. I mean, that's pretty good. That's Tech. That's tough to beat. But I think I'm still picking like Miami's roster with DJ Lagway. Some of those Florida guys can fill those spots. UCF, USF, two good rosters there. Didn't even mention Florida State. I'm sure they've got some 5-star dudes on that roster that would compete as well. So I was going with Florida. But here's my second part to this question, fellas. This one's more fun. How about if you had to combine 2 rivals? It could be in-state, it could be out-of-state, 2 hated rivals to be one roster. Then who would be the best program in college football? I think Justin said it. My pick might be right now, just next year, South Carolina, Clemson.
I think A&M Texas has a real talk too, unless you just want to make sure Texas is paired with Oklahoma. But I think you can't do that anymore with the renewal of that rivalry. I think it's,
you could do either or, but you can only pick 2 rivals.
Are we considering Georgia, Florida?
You can do that.
Yeah, I would.
That's got to be up there.
Georgia, Florida was a good one. Georgia Tech will be good.
I think you'd take the Florida roster right now first.
Probably. You're probably right.
If you did in-state, it's a little too similar to the other question where like you're combining the roster. So if you opened it up and made you do like somebody like a border ballot type thing and you couldn't do in-state, I think then it gets kind of touchy. Like how much real look would you give it to anything other than Georgia, Florida? Like you don't really look at Texas. Yeah, Ohio State, Michigan maybe, but I don't think you
So Jay Bird in the comments already gives us Michigan and Ohio State feels.
But how much are you really getting out of that Michigan roster this year going into 25, I guess? Like that you're really feeling
what Bryce Underwood is.
What if Julian Sain's better this year,
Could be. Definitely could be. Absolutely.
I think that's a good one, though. I think the Georgia-Florida one was good.
Does LSU-Alabama count as rivalry?
I don't think, not in this context. No, because
there's not a rivalry name for that one, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Iowa, Nebraska.
Auburn, Alabama. Nebraska. Auburn, Alabama might be solid. We'll see what we get from Auburn. But
I'm trying to
think.
This is a tough one.
Isn't it kind of crazy how – or sorry, keep going.
No, I was just going to say you're dependent on like Jackson Arnold's probably your quarterback in that situation, and you're hoping he has a breakout season. But Kalen DeBoer, I'm picking him to call plays. I guess Ryan Grubb, so you get that combination. I think the Alabama defense will be good again this year. I think the receivers at Auburn are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
I would agree.
I mean, you get, and then who's the running back for? No, Haynes went to Michigan, right? From Alabama, he went to Michigan. So I was thinking the opposite there. But either way, I think I still like that. That was 2 that kind of came to my mind.
You could have fun with some roster construction, some rivalries, just in general.
Isn't it kind of crazy how like there's no mention of the state of California in this, as far as like the amount of teams that they have, the amount of top level teams that they have, and as far as like the rivalries and where their rosters are at? Has it ever been lower right now?
What if you went Notre Dame USC? Like you took the beef of it from Notre Dame.
I thought
and
of
you
that.
kind of supplement it with pieces, I mean, maybe, but I don't think this is the year you'd want to do it.
Again, it's the quarterback argument. Who's the quarterback in that situation? Like Maiyava or Carr, I think I'm getting much better options on another program.
I don't even know if
That's a
Carr's
good
going to
point.
play.
Yeah, I know. And Jelly will probably be. You're right. Brandon Jelly will probably be the starter. You're correct. Yeah, that's a good question too. The recruiting out in California, they say it's getting better as far as the national media is saying that it's getting better out there. Now, are they staying in California? Not really. I don't
No,
know,
they are
but
not.
it doesn't really feel like it, right? That or they're going to Oregon if they're staying out west.
Mhm.
So
And I think USC
Hey.
is going to be better this year, honestly, compared to last season, but still just in a rough spot out there.
Hey, technically, Illinois Ohio State's a trophy rivalry.
you say
Just
Illinois,
gotta be
Ohio
broke
State?
out.
That's technically
They
a
play for
trophy
the turtle.
rivalry.
They play for that
Yeah.
turtle.
I mean,
Okay.
if you just want to get off the board, I think like not to like bring up homerism here in some form, Iowa State, Kansas State as a combined roster would be intriguing in a lot
It'd
of
be
ways.
intriguing, but I don't know if it's still winning.
They already play I don't know if it wins a national title. It probably doesn't. But to see them merge together, I think that would make them both significantly better.
And nowadays,
Obviously,
I mean,
if it's
anytime
even
you
more.
merge these rosters, like the depth would be just unreal compared to a
Fixed.
lot of
Yeah.
teams where back in the day, before NIL and
Before,
everything,
yeah.
the depth of some of those higher teams was maybe still comparable to that. So I think if you combine any of these teams, it would be a huge advantage in 2025.
Hey,
obviously.
we're doing a live show, but we like to clip this stuff. Should we give JT a chance to really clip that Georgia Florida one for this question? Because I kind of like it. I think that's a good one.
I guess, yeah, Justin, give us. I think that'll be our winner. I think the best roster combination between rivals would be Georgia and Florida. What's your reasoning why?
I just think I mean, I don't know the Florida roster as in depth, but if you give, obviously the biggest question at Georgia right now is quarterback. And if you give them the potential of DJ Lagway down in Florida, I think that skyrockets their potential and they're going to be talked about in a much different manner going into 2025 than they currently are.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, and we'll kind of talk a little bit more maybe about Georgia's roster here at the end of the episode. But let's move on. We have news from the sport that we have to cover. I don't know how long we want to spend on this topic, but I think it's worth mentioning. Bowling Green's head coach Scott Loeffler takes the quarterback coach position for the Eagles. This is now back-to-back seasons in this new era of college football where a good G5 coach or just good college football head coach takes another NFL gig. The one that comes to mind, and it's Traylor, right, from Boston College. That was the one last year. Jeff Traylor went to the Packers. That's the name. I'm not messing up that name, right?
Heffler. Yeah. I'm saying that right, aren't I?
For Boston College, the coach last year? That was the one that came to my mind. Oh, Jeff Hafley. Yeah.
Hafley. Gosh, I was like, it's something like one of those.
Yeah. Nope. So that was the one that came to my mind.
Georgia State also lost theirs, did they not?
Yes, but he took a position coach at South Carolina. This was more like NFL jobs. I don't know. Bowling Green, Loeffler leaves the program in a better position than when he took it over in 2019. I liked what Bowling Green was last year. Thought they could have won the MAC, but it just feels like we'll just continue to see more and more of this, just with how hard it is to compete and recruit and keep players, for that matter, at the
I think
G5
that's the biggest
level.
reason is keeping the players.
Because you get a guy like Harold Fannin, and now I know people were saying he would have transferred had he had another year. I wouldn't be so quick to jump the gun there. I mean, Ashton Genty stayed. He could have left, but yeah, I think that puts them in a tough spot. It would have been really hard for them to keep a guy like Harold Fannin, vice versa, and they got another good roster for Bowling Green. So that's all I really got, unless anybody has any more thoughts on that one.
I just kind of wrote down, it seems like it's going to continue to be this way until bigger things get figured out, and we've touched on that before. Just the schedule sucks.
So
what's the
solution? That's what my question to you, Jordan, is. What is there a solution anymore?
It's a fix to the college football schedule. One, like number one, that has to get fixed up. Number two, it's a little more clean and concise guardrails on the transfer portal, when that opens, when that closes, how it works, what is a violation, what's not a violation, your ability to police it in general. I think those two are your main starters, right? Like, just get the schedule under wraps, give these people some time off, give them time to go see their families, to be a father, to be a mother, like, because there's more than just men involved in this sport that are taking a ton of time. Like, there's your nutritionists and people on staff. They're even started, hiring women within the coaching staff some places. So, like, just in general, giving people time off, time to breathe, time to see family, and really gather themselves before diving into another year. So I think it starts there, and then it is just parameters around how in the world you continually navigate the NIL space and the portal space all at once.
Would love to see some buyout. I know you're diving into some really legal waters that's really kind of mucky, but I would love to see a buyout on some G5 contracts, like for some of these guys. Just keep them around. I mean, they found the diamond in the rough. They developed him. I think that they should be, compensated for their efforts. Well, it's got to just even something so that they can go and find players, pay players elsewhere. So, all right. Last thing I have on deck. We'll skip the Florida State Clemson news. They're just.
I think that's so depth, and I'm so tired of talking about realignment and them suing and not suing, settling. Like, I just think
they're supposedly going to vote. It was supposed to be today. I didn't hear anything, but it was supposed to be taking a vote on the ongoing lawsuits with the ACC. I just think this keeps the ACC afloat for a couple more years. I think 2030, 2031 is going to be another massive shift in college football. I know that's so far away, but keep that in the back of your mind.
It's not. I mean, it is. It is thinking about season wise. It's not that far ahead. Like, when they're going to start talking about it again, though.
Yep. Especially with this new expansion of the playoff and everything else. But the fun news. I hope you guys jotted down some notes for this one, because I was excited to cover it. The AAC and the Sun Belt released their schedule for 2025. If you guys listened to us before, finally, right? We cover all 136 around here. So, of course, we have to give them their
Nailed the 136 there.
I don't forget about Delaware and Missouri State.
I'm just saying, we updated our bios and stuff. I was just like, we're punching right there. We're here. We're paying attention.
We're not gonna call any of these schools FCS teams. We won't do that. Not on this show. So, any notable games from either the American Athletic Conference or the Sun Belt?
Yeah.
I'll go first. I'll give my first one. Then we'll go Justin. Then we'll go Jordan. Maybe we can go some round robin style.
Mm-hmm.
Boise State, USF. Boise goes to Tampa now on a Thursday. It is now moved to your week 1 Thursday night that you are put on a platter of a gem of a G5 game. I think that this one's awesome. Boise's going to still probably be in the top. Actually, they will be in the top 25 heading into next year, and they're going on the road to a USF program that's, I think, going to be punching again. I think Byron Brown's still back. I hope I got that right. I haven't seen anything otherwise. Coach Golish, I know, is going to have this roster ready. They're punching their weight as far as the NIL space and kind of how they're competing in the American. So that's going to be a really good team. Fun fact, USF, their first 3 games of the year, fellas. Boise, Miami, Florida. Holy crap.
That's a stretch.
You're playing 3 pretty much top 25 teams to start the season. So good for Coach Golish. I hope they're using that money elsewhere. That's my first one. Justin, what do we got?
Yeah, I've got let me pull it up here. I've got Memphis and Tulane on a Friday night, November 8th.
Thank you. On my list.
Just like you said with the Boise State USF game being on a Thursday. I love when these group of 5 schools get to play in a time where more people are going to watch, whether that be like a Friday night game or even like a standalone, like sometimes you get like a Saturday night or Thursday or anything like that. I love just when it's on a different night, it just has a different atmosphere to it, brings a different energy. And those are 2 of the best teams in the AAC last year. Probably the 2 picks to win it last year. Didn't really end up like that, but I'm sure those 2 are going to be right there at the top again this season, and being like the first Friday of November, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I love that pick. And that's a good, I guess a sidebar is that we do cover all 136. We try to watch as many as we can. But I think these weeknight games are so important to the leagues. As far as like a fan like myself, to be transparent, I think everybody can be honest. Like if you watch college football as much as we do, I think you still don't have enough time to really get all that much G5 action into your Saturday when a slate is just loaded. So these league night games when you're playing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, I think they're just massive because it gives me an opportunity to fully watch these teams and truly pay attention. So sidebar to that, I don't know if you guys saw, I believe the Sun Belt is playing every Tuesday, Thursday, or at least most Tuesday, Thursdays in October this year. So
Love
we're
that.
getting Fun Belt on a Tuesday. That's fantastic. I'll give you a game that I saw that's going to be played on a Tuesday, but we'll go to Jordan next. Jordan, what's another game to look out for?
Yeah, little cross conference thing here. How about ECU Coastal?
Yep.
Week 3. ECU looking for a bump up. Coastal also in the same situation. Like these are two programs that usually sit closer to the top of their two conferences. I think that's two of the better brands, two of the better logos, two of the better uniform sets in college football. Throw them together on one field. Let's have some fun early season. Like really see, because both these teams are going to really want that one for a non-con win and, bowl eligibility plus whatever else, depending on how their season goes, right? I think that one is underrated for how early in the year it is.
I'll just piggyback off yours then, Jordan, because how about for week 1 first? ECU at NC State, little G5, P4 action. This game, for those who really don't pay attention, this game means the absolute world to East Carolina. If you had a chance to watch those two schools play each other in a bowl game last year, like there's no love lost between the fan bases. And the fact that ECU beat NC State the way that they did, and they've been letting them hear about it for this entire year, that game is going to be on fire. Like I'm super pumped for that one. CJ Bailey's coming back. I think ECU is going to be a lot better. Kind of the way they finished the year was really good on a high note. So that's kind of another matchup that I'm super pumped about. Justin, back to you. What's another one?
Another game that caught my attention was Army and UTSA, last game of the year. Let me see who the home game was. Army's going at UTSA, while Army obviously rolled through the AAC last year and had the great season they did. UTSA kind of had a down year, but still a good team. Had some frisky games in there. Pretty sure they upset Memphis in about the middle of the year. And they had a really good year 2 years ago. So they're kind of a team that I always keep my eye on in that conference because they've just been known to be frisky, and being playing at the last game of the year, having Army go down to Texas, it would have been a much different atmosphere if UTSA would have to go up to Army. So could be a game that could have some big implications on the conference down the stretch.
Jeff Traylor's UTSA team. I think I just realized that I mixed up Hafley for Traylor when we were talking about that Boston College comp. But anyways, Jordan, what's another one?
JMU at Texas State.
Have that
two
one.
Teams,
fantastic.
That need to be. I would say what Chesney's doing at JMU is still good. Like they really still trying to figure themselves out, and they're continually, finding a way to be around the top of the Sun Belt. But GJ Kinney and Texas State did not live up to a hype that was set out for them last year. And in order to do it again this year, they have a tougher schedule to do it. Hosting a JMU team that I'm sure will be really good that's appointment TV for the Sun Belt in general. Like that's two heavyweights in the conference going at it.
I believe I had that in my notes. I believe that's one of those Tuesday night games.
October 28th, I have that written down. I did not check what day of the week it was.
Like, I'm pretty sure that's a Tuesday night game. Like, that's a fantastic Tuesday night football game. So, I'll go one more. I know I'm kind of going out of conference matchups, but I think are super interesting. Also, Army travels to K-State. I didn't know that. That's kind of fascinating. But this one's great. Tulane hosting Duke. Darian Mensah goes back to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Man, we talk about ECU, NC State being on fire. This one, New Orleans is going to be on fire. And their $3 million quarterback that they're bringing back for his homecoming after basically buying him out to go to Duke of all places. Hey, that's must-see TV.
Like pretty vocal John Summerall down there. He'll let you know, no holds barred. Like he'll kind of talk to you about it. Like completely understands the situation Mensa was in. He said it about Mekhi Hughes and some other pieces, and he's also said it like, hey, we're not the ones in this conference spending money like fooling around here. And to have him bring in that Duke team that was an overachiever last year, if we're being completely honest, based on record wise, to bring them down there early, like you're either going to get called a skunk early if you're Tulane and you lose to Duke, or
Phenomenal reference.
or it's just going to be to me like it's going to be a Twitter whirl, or like I feel like Tulane's going to go insane, and that night will be just craziness all over.
That's a good environment too. Like I remember the Kansas State game last year.
Ole Miss when they were there.
Yes.
I think Ole Miss, they play Ole Miss again this year. Tulane does.
Well, that stadium they got's only a couple years old.
Yeah, I think so.
It's pretty new.
That's a good one. That's pretty much. I mean, I got a couple more I could highlight, but we can go on and on. But I'll. Anybody else got one really good one they want to share, or is that kind of it for this list?
I kind of looked at Marshall in app for a different reason, right? Marshall, new coach. You won the league last year. How much different are things now? And then you look at app and you're like, this is a program that has to get back to the top of the Sun Belt, or something's going to change and it's going to be drastic. So I just circled that one because it's late November. Like we may be looking at an app team trying to get back into the Sun Belt title game, or we might be looking at an app team that's going to be looking for a new coach after that week. 3
Iowa natives here. I think we'll have a little soft spot for app. We hope J.J. Cole can lead the charge for that group. The last thing I wanted to mention on this schedule stuff, I'm sure it was already planned, but Army-Navy, again, will be played after the American Athletic Conference Championship game.
Keep it that way. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
Don't touch it?
Nope. I think we leave it there forever.
So what are we going to do about the conference championship game? If one of those two, because both of those teams,
we've had this conversation. We've had this conversation before. I truly believe that if you walked up to a kid on Army's campus or on Navy's campus and they said, "Would you rather win the American Athletic Conference Championship this year, or would you rather beat Army or Navy?"
100%.
I think they'd look at you straight in the face and say, "I'd rather beat Army or I'd rather beat Navy."
Absolutely.
Now we would lose the essence of a lot of what college football is if we go, I don't really care about that rivalry that much, but I got to make some money here. So you go play Tulane on Thursday night to start this conference title week.
I'm all for them just opting out of the conference championship game. I don't know. Like, I get they want to still compete for a conference
I think Army just got caught in a bad spot. Like, I just think they shot themselves too many times in the foot. It wouldn't be as big of a deal if they would have won that game last year. Like they kind of did it to themselves. I'm not going to say like, and it ain't like they got really challenged when they hosted that American Athletic title game. Like they kind of ran through the competition. You had time. Like I get it, but you know what you're getting when you play Navy. It's going to be different. It's going to be, hard-nosed things. It's going to be bounce a ball at times. Like I truly think if they'd have won that game, it'd have been less of a conversation.
It wouldn't be a conversation because it's like, look, it didn't affect Army winning the football game, but it clearly did. And I want to see, that's, one of the best games in our sport. And I want to see those two teams fully focused at their best. And I just don't know if that Army team, I know it was Navy. I know what that game means to them, but just you watch them play that game and they didn't look like the same Army team we saw all year.
Yeah, they're a little more banged up. Yeah.
Banged up and
just play together or if they play each other.
For the title, that's
what do we do?
Probably cancel that. I think they would. I think both teams would be like,
just have it be the next week.
Yeah, just don't touch anything. It'll keep all the same pageantry, tradition, and all that stuff that goes in Army Navy, and be like, you can throw your little sticker on the corner of this field, but this is Army Navy.
I think that's what we need as college football fans. I think that would do a lot of healing.
I think the AAC would try and like have a panic attack. Like, I don't know how to handle this situation without becoming unpatriotic,
Here's the situation though, that you can't cancel the game. What if they're both 11-1 and they're playing in the college football playoff bracket comes out the week before Army Navy? You can't cancel the game. That's for the G5 spot.
Because we were not that far from this a year ago.
Not really. I mean, this scenario is crazy. Everything would need to line up between Navy being perfect, Army being perfect.
Mountain
Heat
West
was
not
only a
be
couple
good.
games off.
Mac.
But it's a crazy scenario that could happen. I mean, we got one of these teams doing it last year. What's more than two? So I don't know. That's college football in 2025 for you. All right. That is the AAC and Sun Belt Conference or schedule release for 2025. I believe the MAC's coming up. We'll probably talk a little bit MAC.
Gotta talk the MAC release because I don't know what to think of the MAC this year. It's going to be so different.
I think so too. And I don't know if CUSA, they came out with their schedule already. They did.
Yes.
I was just thinking it. I think MAC save the best for last. So
there you go.
We will save the MAC. All right. Let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. But before we do that, again, if you're just joining us for this segment, feel free to subscribe to the channel, like the video, continue to try to grow this thing, grow our brand. We talk college football all the time, even in the middle of March Madness. This is what we do here. ShopNoRivals.com. Use the code PTFS, like play the fight song at checkout for free shipping on the best hats in all of college sports. Speaking of March Madness, again, we're basically talking August material here. We have the way too early top 10. We're not going to do the top 25. We're not going to give you 75 different lists of top 25 teams. So we'll just keep it at 10 for tonight. Really interested to see how dissimilar this is. I think you have a lot of cases for a lot of different teams. It was kind of fun to go back and actually do some research on what these rosters are made of, because I just haven't really put my brain to thought about like what some of these teams are bringing back, like who actually is playing quarterback for some of these teams and some of those other situations. So Jordan, you want to lead us off? Do you want to give us do we want to go top 5 first? Let's do that. We'll do top 5 and then we'll do 6 through 10.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yes, please.
I looked at this in a couple different ways, and then I thought to myself, returning production over the last couple of years, just recruiting, if you had to supplement it with the portal, what did it look like? And then I also thought coach-wise and just momentum going into the year. So that's what I put together in my top 10. Obviously, there's no on-field results at this moment in time. This is completely biased. It'll probably change in a month or two now when the portal hits again. That's just how things roll. I'll go Ohio State number 1. I do think that the quarterback position is intriguing, and that's a make or break thing for a lot of rosters, but I think the answer is in that quarterback room right now in Columbus. I also really do enjoy what they've done defensively and offensively, building up the trenches. There's depth there. There's pieces there. They're still going to be good in the secondary. The wide receiver room will forever be good. You still have Jeremiah Smith there, and with or without him, that's a good receiving room, right? So pick, that kind of part of it all up. I think Ryan Day is really in a spot where they're kind of relaxed. They're all going to take a deep breath. They're going to find themselves in a good spot. So I put them 1. I put Penn State 2. This is a lot of confidence in the hires they made in the offseason to make things a little bit better and just get over a little bit of a hump. But I think Aller can take another step. I think the running backs being back cannot be talked about enough. Again, good in the trenches on both sides of the football. The defense is going to be really good as well. It can only get better with the hire made. 3, Georgia. I'm not sold on Gunnar Stockton and who plays quarterback there in Athens, but I do think that Kirby is just such a proven commodity in his ability to develop talent and recruit at such a high level. I put them at 3. 4, Notre Dame. This one scares me a little bit more than some other ones. I could be convinced out of it, but I do think that when your offensive line's that good, you bring back a stud running back, the defense is going to be good again. They've proven they can hang with teams in a 12-team playoff field. I think that's one you got to put there. And 5, Miami. I think the addition of Carson Beck, and if we can just get this defense a little more figured out and a little more squared away talent-wise, as well as some other things, there's no reason that this team shouldn't be a top 10 team the entire year. So Ohio State, Penn State, Georgia, Notre Dame, Miami, 1 through 5.
There was one team I see you missing there. So that's interesting. I'm going to put that on the bottom here for our YouTube listeners as we're kind of paying attention. So make sure I double check that for me, Jordan, to see if I got that right. But good list. Justin, start us off with your 5. What do you got?
All right. Yeah, I had a hard time kind of looking at this because one of my biggest gripes is the top 25 preseason AP poll with the with the AP, just because I feel like it's unnecessarily weighted, and really what is the criteria they're going off of. Tried to not to do too much projection with something like this, like how many games I think they're going to win, but just looking at the rosters, who's returning, coaching staff, things like that to kind of grade it out. So at number 1, I've got Texas, which is a little bit of surprise. I know
Jordan didn't have him in the top 5.
That's true. I was a little surprised by that. The biggest thing for me is that they're returning their whole coaching staff, or at least the core coaching staff, bringing back Sark. This is, how many years has he been there now?
Before, I think. 4 or
5. 4 or 5. Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the history of some of these head coaches, it's around that time where if they start winning, that's kind of when they start to turn the corner. And one of the biggest things for me is that they've retained their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator after the levels of winning that they've been doing last couple of years, making the playoff. That usually isn't the case. Guys usually start to get plucked off. So as we look at rosters being retained, I think looking at coaching staffs being retained is a big thing for winning as well. And obviously the big elephant in the room, Arch Manning. I've been kind of a big supporter of his. I think he's going to end up being as good as advertised. So when you look at some of the other teams that are in the top 10, quarterback's a much bigger question mark than what Texas has. For number 2, I've got Ohio State. And for me, that's mostly just a respect thing. I mean, being the defending champs, I didn't want to have them below this spot. A lot of new pieces over there, a lot of new coaching staff as well, but it's just a respect thing for Ryan Day and respect for the defending champs and what they did last year. For number 3, I'm on the same page as JP. I've got Penn State right there. They're sitting at about like 5th on FanDuel for title odds, but with the amount of returning production that they have, they're top 15 in offensive returning production. They're keeping their quarterback, keeping both running backs like we talked about, and adding Jim Knowles at defensive coordinator could be the difference that puts them over the top. So there's just not a lot of teams that if they were to play tomorrow, I would take them over Penn State. Number 4, I've got Georgia. Kind of similar to the Ohio State thing for me. This is just a respect thing for Georgia. I'm not so sure how I feel about Stockton at quarterback this year, but the way that they continually stack talent is rivaled by not very many teams in the nation. And a team who in their down year was still able to kind of win the SEC pretty handily isn't a team that I can leave outside of my top 4. And then at number 5, this one might be a little bit of surprise. I've got Clemson. And for me, the biggest thing is the returning production. They're bringing back a lot of that same roster from last year. ESPN's got them ranked as the number 1 returning production team. And if you look at some of those teams in the past, that usually pays a lot of dividends into future success. You've got a lot of familiarity. They were able to sneak their way into the playoff last year. And I just think it's something that they're really going to be able to build off this year. And it might surprise you if you look over at the FanDuel odds, Cade Klubnik, one of the more seasoned quarterbacks in the country right now. And with how the college football landscape has gone, a lot you see, like look at last year, you see a lot of seniors, you see a lot of 4-year veteran guys there at the end. And I feel like Cade Klubnik and Clemson has a really good chance of being one of those teams this upcoming season.
Justin, I like that. I like that 5. I think we're kind of thinking similar there in a little bit of some spots, but I think we're differentiating a little bit here. So I'm glad to see that. I do want to shout out Jaber in the comments. He's kind of on the side of it. He put Texas at 1, but it's flip a coin. That's kind of the whole premise of this, right? I think that's so exciting about the 2025 season is that there's so many, especially at the quarterback position, there's a lot of uncertainty, which I think is a good thing because we really don't know what we're going to get. And it could just be like a complete change, like 180 of like what could happen with some of these teams. You know, how many teams start in the top 10 and then finish out of the top 25? Happens pretty often. And I think next year more than ever, we could really, really see that again in this transfer portal era. Okay. My 5, I'll kind of go quicker on this one. Texas is number 1 for me. I'm with you, Justin. I trust Arch. He's out of most of these young quarterbacks that we're going to see for kind of the first time or like the first time of them getting the keys to the car for a full season. We've at least seen Arch to a degree. And from everything I've seen so far, I think he's the real deal. I'm just fascinated by the way he uses his legs more than anything. That was kind of a dynamic I didn't really expect him to bring to the table, at least at the college level. But I think also the pass rush for them is going to be just probably the best in college football. They get Simmons back, they get Moore back, two dudes that were just fantastic last year. Trey Moore was a UTSA transfer, and he went above and beyond, and he was better than what they thought, I think. Number 2, Penn State. And some Ohio State fans might get pissy and moany, and that's fine. Justin, you highlighted it. It's what you're bringing back and like what you're putting on the field on week 1 next year after what I saw the year before. Most returning key players in college football. Allen and Singleton, that's just tough to beat. And Drew Aller, it's kind of a prove it year for him, clearly, but they're going to win so many games with those two. It's not even really going to matter up until, the playoff or Big Ten championship or just maybe the Ohio State game. 3, I have Ohio State. Now, it's a little disrespectful to the defending national champions, I know, but you're replacing the coordinators. You're brand new quarterback. I think Julian Sayin could be one of the best quarterbacks in college football. I just haven't seen a lick of evidence that proves it so far. So I'm just going off what I know at this point. But I will say, too, I think Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Smith are still 2 of the best players in college football, straight up. And they're both in the same roster. So that weighs heavy when I make this pick. 4, Notre Dame. Again, I think they return a lot. Quarterback is kind of an iffy situation, but hopefully again, like Penn State, you get Love back, you get Price back. They're going to be massive. You get Jordan Faison back. I think that's going to be paying dividends for them offensively. And then I just trust Marcus Freeman to coach that defense every single year. I love the comment from Jay Bird about Oklahoma State and the returning production last year. Yeah, I mean, I covered this before, but that was, I don't know. They got hot. They got hot in the latter half of the year in 2023. The writing was on the wall when they lost 33-7 to South Alabama, and I think some people didn't see that. I, for one hand, said Ollie Gordon wouldn't make an all Big 12 team, and I was correct. And I didn't have Oklahoma State in my Big 12 title. So at least we kind of snuffed it out here a little bit.
I also think that their returning production is a lot different than the returning production of the teams that are top 5 level. Right. Like we're talking returning production at Oklahoma State, like they didn't have one guy run the majority of the offense. Now they had good receivers and some spots at Presley and whatever, but they also had a guy, I don't know if you remember him. He played quarterback there last year, of Alan Bowman. That would make a difference if that was my returning production. Cade McNamara was returning production last year too.
That's true.
What are we really returning there?
It's not just returning production, it's the quality of the production that's returning.
Yep.
Exactly. That's a good point.
Good points. 5, I'll round it out of Georgia. I like Gunnar Stockton, and I trust that this roster is still going to be good. Is it going to be 2021 good? It never will be, at least in the NIL world. I don't think that's just going to be what it is anymore. But, man, I like what I saw out of Gunnar Stockton in that Notre Dame game. And I think he's got what it takes to and I just trust Kirby Smart. He's not to the Nick Saban level at this point, but he's almost in that fact, you just don't want to bet against him and you just trust him with whatever he's got. So I'm going to do that again this year. So that's my top 5: Texas, Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia. So who wants to, Jordan, finish out your top 10? What do you got, 6 or 10?
Yeah, you guys were talking about the ones that I didn't have there. I have Texas at 6. I think there are more questions there than to be answered. And I'll stand here and tell you I've been high on Texas the last 2 years when a lot of people wanted to put him down. I had Texas futures the last couple of years. I thought Ewers was better than the respect he was given the last couple of years. I do think that there's some questions there that I just want to be seen. I think it's that simple, right? To go through the 2 years of disappointment in the way the years ended and then, go into this year as such a favorite. I think there's some questions there. So I have him 6, 7, Clemson. I don't know how I feel about Klubnik at this moment in time. I'm not super high, not super low on him, but I'm hesitant to call him one of the better quarterbacks in the country when we watched him for the majority of the year. I think there's some recency bias in why he's high on so many people's boards. 8, Tennessee. I think that defense is going to be great again. Nico takes another step. They still have weapons on the outside. The running back room, I think the Sampson thing was great. I think it's replaceable, though. 9, LSU. I think Nussmeier is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. They really hit the portal again. One of these years, it's got to hit, or they're not going to have a Brian Kelly problem too much longer. And 10, Illinois.
Okay.
That's quality stuff right there. So
threw Illinois in there. There we go.
The Tennessee thing, as Jordan's going to calm his dog down or something. What else? It wouldn't be a show without that. The Tennessee thing, I was going to say, Jordan, as you left, is fascinating because I've seen a lot of way too earlys with them, like not even really cracking the top 15. But I'm with you.
Yeah, I like them. I think the Sampson thing stinks. But I think there's replaceable in that scheme, and I also think that the receiver room is only going to get better from what it was a year ago, right? And the defense is going to be just as good. Now you get a better receiving room. Nico hits more passes. Now that's a lot of ifs in there, but I think that's a top 10.
He's got to take another level if they want to be top 10. Like I liked what I saw out of Nico, but there was also like 7 other
they were
guys
still in that area last year when he didn't have as good of a season as they thought.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the reason people are kind of off Tennessee now is like they were so on him last year because of the hype that surrounded Nico. And because he didn't fulfill those huge shoes, people are just forgetting about him. And even if he doesn't take a huge jump, I mean, the fact that Tennessee still made the playoff last year shows that they don't really need the flashy numbers to succeed. Not really something people expect with a Josh Heupel team, but they kind of relied on their run game and their defense last year. And I don't really think that that's something that's going to go away.
GA in the comments here said he forgot, Blue in the draft. There's a guy named CJ Baxter didn't play at all last year at Texas that they thought was going to be the second coming. He's back from his injury. That's going to be the best back they've had in a couple of years. So just watch out for them at Texas.
How about Matthew Golden too this week? Like he was underrated to me. Like I thought he was one of the best receivers in college football down the stretch last year, but him popping off, I think he's going to be a good NFL player. He had a great combine. That's why it kind of came to my mind. But anyways, I was thinking about this as we're doing this. I was like, should we really be given 1 through 5? I feel like we're kind of spoiling the plot. But now that we did
it's way too early, right? But we're so different on most of them. I think it's fun to see, know.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm kind of glad that we're doing this because I think our 6 through 10s are much different. And we're actually going to have teams that maybe like Tennessee for you, Jordan. I didn't expect you to have Tennessee in there, so I'm glad you did.
And I think I'm getting a little Big Ten homerism here. Illinois at 10, and that's the clickbait one that a lot of people are using.
Don't worry, I followed you up on that.
I had a couple reasonings I guess I'll if you guys have similar ones, I'll let you go on it. We can talk about it after. I don't want to.
I'm gonna assume the guy who gave the over and the win totals earlier in the episode probably has Tennessee in his top 10. But Justin, the floor is yours. Give us your full top 10. What's your 6 through 10?
Well, you might be surprised. At 6, I've got Notre Dame. I mean, obviously made the national championship last year. I feel like Marcus Freeman and his culture that he's built there really came onto the scene last year. And I feel like that culture and that defense that they built is going to be something that's going to be able to translate to this year, even without Riley Leonard and losing a lot of their offensive pieces. At number 7, I've got Oregon. Similar to like the Ohio States and the Georgias and the Texases, losing a lot of players from last year, but I'm trusting Dan Lanning and this staff. This is now his 4th season, I think, at Oregon, something like that. The way they've been able to stack talent every year, they're always going to be at the top of the mix. So I've got them at 7. A little bit of surprise here. At number 8, I've got South Carolina. The way they finished last year, finishing 6-0, I know there was a hot topic on if they should have made the playoff or not, but they were definitely a team that nobody wanted to play. Bringing back some of their best players in Lenora Sellers, who knows what kind of jump he's going to make this year, and Dylan Stewart on the defensive end. I just feel like if they're able to carry half of the momentum that they finished last season with, they're going to be a tough team to deal with this year. At number 9, I've got LSU. Just like JP was talking about, Garrett Nussmeier coming into the year as the Heisman favorite. If he doesn't have as good of a season as people think, then this take's going to age pretty poorly. But if he does live up to live up to the expectations. I do expect Brian Kelly to kind of turn it around a little bit. Unlike kind of his the way people think about him nationally, I still think he is one of the premier colleges or one of the premier coaches in the SEC. And this is also the second year with that defensive staff. So I expect to see a little bit of improvement there as well. And then at 10, I don't have Illinois, but kind of like JP's homerism on the Big 10, I'm going to show some homerism with the Big 12. I've got Arizona State. I know we've kind of dismissed the returning production thing before, but they were number 2 in ESPN's returning production rankings. And if you're looking at it, I mean, you can't get more quality return of production for them other than losing Scadaboo. I mean, they're bringing back Sam Levitt at quarterback, bringing back his number 1 weapon in Jordan Tyson. And another reason that their success went underrated was how good their defense was in the second half of the season. And they're the number 2 returning production for the overall defense coming into this season. So the way that they were winning games, although they're not going to be able to pound the rock like they were with Scadaboo, I trust Sam Levitt. And I trust that defense to keep them in games and keep them as one of the top teams in the country.
I like it. Well, I'll give mine and then I'll say what I have to say. I'll start off with 6. Clemson for me. I think the most returning production in college football. Dabo's not recruiting the way he once was, but I trust this roster that is constructed in 2025 to go out there and compete with the best. I think Cade Klubnik he's not a world beater, but right now there's a lot of uncertainty with the quarterback positions, what I talked about, and I trust him over maybe a lot of new faces this year, at least in March when we're talking about this. Maybe some young guns will rise, and then Cade Klubnik will kind of, drift in the wind. But right now, I think he's going to be a veteran leader for that football team. We'll stay in the same state. 7, I have South Carolina. Studs all across the board. You got to put a team that's just kind of feeling themselves. It's hot. I know I have them above a lot of teams that would probably, upset some folks in the SEC world, but we'll see. This is a prove a year for Shane Beamer. I've seen teams like this crumble and again, like not crack the top 25 by the end of November because of just maybe 2024 was a fluky year for them, but we'll see. I think Lenore Sellers is just a game changer at quarterback. And I think the defense is going to be awesome. 8, I have Oregon. No quarterback answer right now. Really concerning. And actually, I want to hand this off to Jordan. Jordan didn't have Oregon in his top 10. Got anything to defend for that, Jordan? I'm not disagreeing with you. I had a hard time putting them in my top 10, but it was
I think there's a lot of questions. That's such a big overhaul.
Yep.
And I kind of go back and I say one thing and then I'll have a team ranked there for the opposite reasons. It's tough because we're so early, but that's one that has so many questions that I just don't really know if I'm ready to buy into it quite yet.
That's the same thing for me. So many questions, but it's kind of like the Kirby thing. It's sort of the trust factor. I don't know if I trust Dan Lanning to put a championship team together, but at least a top 10 roster just because of the way he recruits and how good that team has been since he's gotten there. I got to think they're going to be a top 10 team, at least to start. We'll have to wait and see.
Pretty much the only reason I had them up there. I mean, everyone's putting a lot of faith in Dante Moore. The last time we saw him, he wasn't very good. I mean, there's a reason he's on Oregon's roster right now. He wasn't very good at UCLA.
We'll see if Oregon gets another quarterback. We'll wait for that spring window if there's even an option, but we'll see. 9. This was our unanimous pick. At number 9, we all had LSU. That was our one unanimous pick. It's going to be interesting because Brian Kelly could make us look very stupid. Is the defense really fixed? We'll see, man. But they went all in on the portal this year for as much as they could, and they got Barian Brown, the receiver from Kentucky, and they're putting all these pieces around them. And they're like, Nuss, you decided to stay another year. You're gonna get paid, and we're gonna go all in on this, and we're not gonna try and mess this up like we messed it up with Jaden Daniels. So we'll see if it works. Last but not least, speaking of Jaden Daniels, I have Arizona State as well, Justin.
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't think it's homerism. I don't understand why we can't put a top 10 team or a Big 12 team in the top 10. This team competed with Texas last year. I know they lose their best player, Cam Scadaboo. Cowboys got something to say about Cam Scadaboo, probably.
He also agrees that, anybody can plug and play into that offense. I'm just kidding.
Teams 9 through 15, because when I was trying to do this, I ended up making my own top 25. And I mean, you could interchange teams 9 through 15 pretty easily. So I don't think it's really a stretch to say that Arizona State could be the 10th best team in the country.
I think
I had the go ahead.
No, you're good. You got your point.
No, I was just going to say, like, I had them I called them outsiders, right? Like, kind of what JT's saying. Like, I had, like, South Carolina, Arizona State, Oregon in that outsider spot where I could put them in there and I wouldn't really blink an eye at it and be upset about it, So, like, I think we've been high on what Dillingham's been doing there. Like, and we liked Sam Levitt preseason. We liked what that team was. Now, we didn't think they were going to go do what they did, but, it's a growth factor. And, sometimes it's maybe a year earlier than when the expectations actually hit. You hit back to the mean. It's a tough one for me on that one. Like it's such a unique conference to go win and have things go your way. It's tough.
Like the Oklahoma State comp Jay Bird made earlier, this one feels different to me, man. Like I trust Sam Levitt. I think he is one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. We saw it with our team, Justin. Like the connection Rocco Becht and Jaden Higgins had last year was one of the best in college football, and it paid dividends. The connection that Jordan Tyson and Sam Levitt are going to have in 2025, I think is, as long as they can stay healthy, is going to be untouchable. I think he could be easily a 1,200-yard receiver if those two are on the same page again in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Did we forget they picked up Kanye Udo, the Army running back? And I know they got a couple of – I just can't even remember on the top of my head right now. They picked up some more big names in the portal as well. So I think the defense is going to take steps, and you have a couple of just game changers on offense.
Yeah.
I know the Big 12 in years past is like it's anybody's league. I have a hard time thinking right now, as long as they stay healthy, I really like Arizona State running through most of that conference this year. But we'll have to wait and see.
I don't think it's a coincidence either that me and you both think Texas could be the number one team going into this year, and we forget that this was an Arizona State team that had Texas like legitimately on the ropes in the playoff, and that was not a fluky performance. Nope. That's kind of what we're getting at. This defense is really physical, and they get after you. And I think a lot of teams like Notre Dame last year, that really physical defense, it goes underrated, but it is what wins in college football and translate better than pretty much any other quality out there.
Arizona State traveling to Iowa State and to Ames in November is like, it's honestly one of those, I said it before on our show, Justin, it's one of those games I haven't been this excited for. A home game I haven't been this excited for in a few years. Like this is something that could be really special. I'm super excited for that one.
Luckily, I think that's on the 9th. Luckily, Memphis and Tulane play on Friday, so we'll be able to get both those games in.
Well, of course. We would never miss it. It's like, God, there's just nothing better than like a good American game on your Friday night to just give you an appetizer. And then we get Sunbelt on Tuesdays now. I mean, we're just spoiled.
Throwing you an old like Pac-12 like Washington, Oregon State Friday nights were pretty solid too. Like some of those years, those were nice. Yeah. Arizona, like
I'm becoming a big Mountain West guy.
I'm out. We did our G5 conference ranks. I'm out on the Mountain
Jake,
West.
did you have any, like me and JP were both talking about, did you have any like outsider picks, like teams that you left off that you kind of noted?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's just a lot of question marks with some of them that I had. I know Bama, was one of them for, I think, a lot of people, not necessarily for me. Illinois, just for the returning production part of it, could have been. I could definitely see it. Listen, I'll be frank. I think Iowa State has an argument to be just as close to Arizona State in maybe that argument. I wouldn't put them in my top 10, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're top 15. I love JP putting Tennessee in there. I think Tennessee is one of the more underrated teams going into next year. I can't believe we're just kind of forgetting it. I can't believe the conversation now is just like we forgot about Tennessee after them just getting just dismantled by, what ended up being the best team in all of college football, no hands down. And Ole Miss, maybe. I don't know. Again, there's some question marks there. I'm kind of out on it. Like, I wanted to put teams in this segment in March. I wanted to put teams in my top 10 that I'm like, all right, these are like playoff teams in my eyes. Could they go 6-6? Maybe. Seasons happen. It's weird, but like right now, if I'm envisioning the playoff, like these teams, they're in it, and I don't see Ole Miss in there. It just doesn't resonate for me. So that's kind of why I kept him out as well. Am I missing any though? Did I?
Any teams that we need to touch on?
I don't really think so.
I saw BYU in a top 10 on one of the ESPN
I did see that.
articles. Crazy. That's crazy.
I just want to see. I want to see what Utah does. If we're talking about the state of Utah,
I want to see Miami, or I want to see BYU.
Miami.
Do it
the
again.
BYU
Miami
thing,
didn't show up anywhere. Oh wait, yeah, they did.
I didn't.
You guys didn't have Miami.
We didn't have Miami. I had Miami as one of those teams right on the outside, and that's why I brought it up to you, Jake, because I thought it was kind of interesting. This is probably the first time in our lifetimes, damn near, that Alabama wasn't even mentioned in this conversation.
I brought him up. I gave him their mention.
Sign of the times.
Yeah. So that was kind of interesting. Another team you talked about, Ole Miss.
Can I say the BYU
Florida?
thing?
Florida's got a chance to be pretty good. Similarly to South Carolina, they finished really hot. And I think Louisville's gonna be really good this year. I think they're gonna have a chance to. There may not.
How about
be,
SMU? That's a team with their quarterback back and coach back from a playoff.
Too early to tell for me on them.
I agree.
Yeah, those are teams that I don't think, if you just squared everybody up, power rankings wise, would be like a top 15 team. But after they go through the ACC, they will very much be ranked near the top 15 come the end of the year.
You have SMU, BYU, Iowa State, Illinois. Those are 4 teams that are in the top 15 of most rankings that I'm like, man, I think all 4 of those teams could easily end up going 6-6. Like I just the way they play in the margins and the roster capabilities.
What if I told you all of their win totals was 7.5?
They don't call
all
me Vegas.
3 of them
no
is 7.5.
Yeah. So Vegas sees it too. Like the variance could be really wild with these. So that's why I like my top 10.
7.5 is like cover your ass line.
State wasn't listed though or talked about, and theirs is 8.5. So a little more juice on them. Kansas State.
Kansas State to me is
Avery Johnson finally going to put it together.
They're more of like high floor, low ceiling. I feel like I know what I'm getting out of them, right? So like I'm not going to sit here and call them top 10 team right now. I think I know what I'm going to get out of them. Now that floor could be 7-5, and that ceiling could be 11-1. Nonetheless, I like that's a high variance, but it's going to be the same team no matter the record, right?
I think it's even worse. I think their floor is 8-4, their ceiling's 9-3. Like I think it's that small. Like I trust that they're going to win a lot of games they should, but I don't know.
I've been critical of Avery Johnson in the past. I think I've very much voiced that on our Iowa State podcast. But if you were to sit here and tell me that he's going to be the best quarterback in the Big 12 this year, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they've got the best quarterback in the Big 12, there's no reason that they can't win 10 games.
I can think of 2 I'd take right now over him.
Well, I would take Rocco Beck and Sam Levitt over him. But like if you and Sawyer Robertson. But if you told me that Avery Johnson limited his turnovers a little bit, because really that was kind of his biggest issue. If he cleans that up a little bit, could make some big improvements.
All right. That was our top 10. That was good. We went long this episode, fellas. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anybody off. Any more closing thoughts before I get us out of here?
No, I'm just saying I'm not throwing $1 million at Avery Johnson to be my quarterback. The other ones I would think about.
Tune into the Cyclone fan perspective. I'm here with you.
Yeah, we probably look out for that. Justin and I probably need to get an episode out here soon. It's just when your basketball team's top 10 and you're in the middle and the thick of it, it's hard to get some more content out there, but we promise we will. So before you head out of here, again, if you want college football content all off season long, subscribe to the video. Subscribe to the channel, like the video. Thank you. And we got you guys covered all throughout the month of March until we get to August. That was our top 10 way too early. That was a lot of fun, fellas. We went a little long, but we appreciate you guys tuning in the entire way. We will see you guys back here again next week. Like always, shopnorivals.com. Use the code PTFS for free shipping. That is JT. That is Russillo. We appreciate him giving us his NBA insight tonight. My name is Jake. We'll see you guys next week. And as always, got to play it.